Hello all sentient beings and welcome to Transmissions Alt Mode, where we talk all news, comics, and media related to the... On this episode of Transmissions Alt Mode, we're joined by comic book artist Andrew Griffith as we review Bumblebee, Go for the Gold, and talk has started on the live-action Bumblebee 2 movie. Today is Friday, January 25th, 2019, and this is episode 113 of Transmissions Alt Mode.
Hurry now. My name is Arish and I host the Letterkenny podcast at letterkennypodcast.com. It's about the hit streaming show Letterkenny, available in Canada on Crave and in the US on Hulu. Now, if you're not able to get those services, you really should listen to the podcast where I go through each episode, give a synopsis, my review, plus some interesting facts about each episode. I even go through some of the show's specific terms you might not be familiar with, like Tilly Time or a Donnybrook. You can learn what it takes to have a super soft birthday party, or what even those two guys did with the ostrich. Allegedly. Anyways, we just finished season 1. As a result, we're celebrating by having a Twitter contest, and we are giving away the Letterkenny DVD collection, which contains seasons 1 to 5, plus 3 bonus episodes. So pitter patter and get at her, subscribe to the Letterkenny podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts. You can reach me on Twitter, at LetterkennyPod, or at letterkennypodcast.com. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to distribute some free literature. That commercial was so fucking pathetic, bud, you gotta give your balls a tug. Fuck you, Shorzy.
Welcome to Transmissions Alt Mode, the podcast that's utterly devastated that we can't watch Machinima's excellent Prime Wars trilogy anymore. I'm your host, Charles, aka Big C, the ball and chain of the Transmissions team, and I'm joined by the excellent Transmissions team. Yusuf, better known as Yoshi.
Yo!
Jeremy, aka Yakko.
Hey, how you doing?
And Daryl, the best member of the Transmissions team, the Cybertronian Beast.
I don't know what he's talking about. Jeremy, you have any idea what he's talking about?
No, I think he might have heard last week's show. He might be upset.
Let's talk Transformers.
All right, I'd elaborate further, but we have a special guest, so we have to be on our best behavior, maybe. So we're joined this week by awesome Transformers artist Andrew Griffith. Welcome.
Hey guys, I don't have a catchphrase or anything, but hello.
Well, we'll figure one out for you.
All right.
Yeah, but Andrew was pretty surprising. You contacted us and told us there was a special anniversary coming up, and you wanted to come on and share it with the Transmissions listeners. So thank you for contacting us, and we are always happy to have you join us here.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've been on. It feels good to be back. I don't know. It just occurred to me the other day that so tomorrow, well, depending on when this is technically released, but Monday the 21st, it'll be 10 years since to the day that the first comic was released that I worked on for Transformers. So at least art-wise. So yeah, Defiance issue 1. I guess that was the prequel for Revenge of the Fallen, I believe. Yeah. The Transformers tie-in comic. So that was the very first thing that I was. It wasn't the very first thing I worked on, but it was the very first thing that was released. So it's crazy to think, but it's been officially 10 years now that I've been working on Transformers comics.
That's super cool. So we're going to talk about that very shortly. So before we get into that, of course we do our normal plugs at the beginning of the show. We don't have any donations this week, so sorry, Yoshi.
Damn it!
But we do want to thank all our current Donatreons, all the folks who continue to support us and give us money on PayPal and Patreon. You help us keep the show going. And if anyone out there is interested in becoming a Donatreon, just go to transmissionspodcast.com/support, and that's how you do that. And if you don't feel like supporting the show directly with that, you can also just buy a shirt from us if you want to, rock some Transmission swag. You can go to transmissionspodcast.com/shop, and we have a store powered by TeePublic, so you can check that out there. And go to the next TFCon or San Diego Comic-Con rocking a Transmission shirt. All right, so let's start off the show and get into some comics news. And as we mentioned at the top of the show, it's Andrew Griffith's 10th anniversary working on Transformers comics. So, Andrew, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you first got noticed by IDW from participating in the Transformers Mosaic. Is that right?
Yeah, that was part of it. I had done some of those. I don't remember if that got me directly noticed by IDW, but the guys who ran that, Sean and Josh, ran in coordination with IDW on their message boards in the forums. They did this contest for be the next Transformers comic artist or cover artist, I guess it was specifically. But so that's kind of where Casey Collar got noticed. That's where Joanna LaFuente got noticed, and myself. So the three of us were in the top 10 with some other talented people and a bunch of other people I'm sure online and things that have seen around their art and stuff that are still out there making great art. But so a few of us kind of got our start around that time.
And you also with the prequel comic that you mentioned, the Revenge of the Fallen prequel comic, Defiance. Was that your first work with John Barber?
No, that was with Chris Mowry. So
okay.
Chris was actually one of the judges on the cover contest. So on the third round, it was Chris Ryle and AJ Sue and Chris Mowry, and he had just started to write. I think he had just started to write, or it had just started to come out. Reign of Starscream, the comic they did after the first movie. So my actual first comic work, I wrote some of the character profiles in the back of the trade paperback.
Oh, okay.
So that was actually my first work, but then I think that was 2007 or 8. But then it was a while until I did any art. So that John Barber didn't come into the movie comics until 2010, I think 2011, somewhere around there. But
you did art with you paired with him, right?
That was for Foundation. Yeah. I'm trying to think. That was because he did Sector 7, and I had done Defiance and some other small things, and then when he pitched Foundation for Dark of the Moon, I guess at the time Andy Schmidt was the editor, and he called me up and asked me if I'd be interested in working on that with John. So that was the first time I think that I had a full series to myself, because Defiance I was brought in to help with the art, and over the course of the issues I did more and more art, because originally I just came in as an inker, but then the art was falling behind, and I was brought in to help do some other pages and things all my own.
Cool.
And then
of course. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was going to say, and then after that, I was doing covers too for the reissues of the Best UK series. So that was actually, I was working on that before Defiance, and then I was working on that, and they called me up. They're like, "Would you be able to help out with Defiance, because it's kind of behind schedule, and movie books are really tight, and the art was kind of falling behind." Yeah, and then after that, I think I did the Wreckers. I inked some of that for Nick. Nick needed some help with getting the art in again. So not him again, but again, it was a situation where they needed help getting the art in on time. So I helped ink it.
Yeah. And of course, everyone knows your. Would it be fair to say that that Transformers: Robots in Disguise was your big break? That was
Oh, I think so. That was if nothing else, that was my first deep dive into the mainstream G1 stuff that IDW was doing. I had done an 11-page story in All Hail Megatron, but I hate to go back and look at that, because at the time I was working a full-time job, commuting an hour and a half each way, and then I'd come home and work on those pages, and I just couldn't put much into it. But anyway, yeah, so after that I was lucky enough to get Robots in Disguise, because I guess John and I worked well together on Foundation, and the editorial team liked our stuff together, so it just kind of fell into place. And yeah, absolutely, that was my big comics break, I think, as far as Transformers.
Yeah, and that was definitely when I think we were all pretty excited to see your art in Robots in Disguise. I think that was definitely where I noticed you and was really enjoying that series, along with More Than Meets the Eye. And that was a good run for you too, because you went through all the way to the end of Robots in Disguise. I guess that was 2016 when
I stopped on issue 55. I mean, obviously there were like fill-in artists and some different runs and stuff that I wasn't on, but I was pretty much the regular artist up until issue 55, and I don't remember, is that the last issue before it switched?
I think I guess there was the Titans Return.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
2 issues.
Yeah.
But that was the last major arc, the All Hail Megatron major arc.
Right.
So that was but that was so I think that definitely was kind of the major endpoint for the series.
Yeah, it was such a great time though. I mean, like, it just felt like such an intensity and so much love for the comics from the fans and everything. And like, I guess there's still that now. And like, what came after that was really good too. But I haven't been as hands-on and as deep into it, I guess. I've done a few things here and there, but that was a really good time. I mean, just relaunching it and getting all the good reviews and all the new fans and, running concurrently with More Than Meets the Eye. And it was just a really good time.
Yeah. And I also really enjoyed that last the Revolution one shot you did, the Thundercracker and Buster save the world. That was
a lot of fun to do. Yeah, I still like that issue. I was looking through some original pages to see what I still had recently, and I was like looking at some of those pages and still pretty happy with a lot of them. A lot of times I go back and I look at things, I'm like, I could do that so much better now. But a lot of those I'm still pretty happy with. So.
And I mean, and so you haven't been doing a lot of regular Transformers comics, but you are still doing covers and things. And then we just had, so I know this came out a few months ago, but we just finished reviewing it on the show last week, was the Transformers Bumblebee prequel.
Well, yeah.
So you kind of end.
Yeah.
You kind of end.
Sorry.
you kind of end where you began working on movie comics, so that's kind of interesting. But maybe not. I don't want to say it's the end, but
the difference is now I can feel good about it because Bumblebee was actually pretty good. So I don't know. Yeah. I didn't hear your guys' review of it or anything, but I thought it was good. So, but yeah, like it's funny because like it does seem like I haven't done that much in a while, but I did that 4-issue series, and then I think like somewhere towards the end of the year, I wrapped that up, and then I helped out with Unicron for a little bit, and then I had like this month-long artist in residence thing in Japan, and then I went like home to visit my mom for Christmas, and like it feels like I had just finished Bumblebee, you know what I mean? So I'm just, and then I got back in the new year here, and I did a cover for the relaunch. I don't think that's shown yet publicly, but so yeah, I'm still working on Transformers comics. It's just. It just I guess hasn't been as visible lately.
Yeah. So so what did you think of the Bumblebee movie? If I can go off tangent for a minute.
No, I liked it. I mean, I was never a big fan of the live action movies. Like I thought the first one was all right, and the rest I saw later on, like on Netflix or on flights or something. But so Bumblebee's the first one I saw in the theater since the first one, and I really liked it. I mean. I remember years ago, like I'd kind of gripe a bit about like the Transformers movies, how they're not as good as I thought they should be, and people would be like, "Well, what do you want, Shakespeare?" I heard that so many times, that specific line, like, "What do you want, Shakespeare?" And I'm like, "No, Bumblebee." Like that's a perfect example. That's what I would have wanted, somewhere, I don't know, a happy medium,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, we I think most of us has felt the same way here on the show. So yeah, it's definitely a step in the right direction, I think.
Yeah. I hope they continue with that tone and don't get discouraged by it making less money than some of the other ones.
Yeah, well, I think we'll even talk a little bit about that in media news coming up a little bit later. I guess one thing I'd like to ask is, over like this 10-year span of time working on Transformers comics, is there something like a high point that sticks out to you, and also maybe I'll say not so high or a low point either?
Well, I guess I'll start with a low point because like I got kind of noticed at first from that cover contest and a few other things where I posted things online, and I got an email from IDW one day saying, "Hey, did you ever draw movie Transformers? I see this G1 stuff online, but would you like to draw movie Transformers?" So I did a few samples and stuff and sent them back, and didn't hear anything for a long time. And then Denton Tipton email me and like he said, hey, I got something for you. Would you like to do covers for Best of UK? And so I did that, and then really soon after that, the Defiance thing came along, and then I did those, and then there were a few months there after that where I wasn't getting like anything from them, so I'd follow up, and they say, yeah, we'll have something for you soon, and they announced like a spotlight Cosmos for me that never happened. It was like announced at San Diego Comic-Con, and around that time Casey had started doing like Spotlight Blur, and so it felt like, okay, yeah, cool, now I'll get my shot stuff. And then but that never came, and like things just got quiet for a long time. Then I wrote him an email guy, and I'm like, hey guys, what's up? And they responded really quickly, like, actually, we're looking for somebody to help ink Wreckers. So that kind of got me back in. But for a few months there, it was like, it just felt like a quick splash that wasn't going to go anywhere. And I was afraid that I wouldn't, get to keep doing it. But anyway, I got lucky and I got on a good trajectory after that. But the high point, I think, was when Robots in Disguise first came out and got announced. I don't know if you're familiar with previews, but like the printed big, thick book version that they put out with the upcoming comics and everything that you get at stores. Yeah. I always read that when I was a kid, like to see what was coming out, because we didn't have the internet back then, It's like, it was just a great thing to read and see what new series were coming out, or keeping up with, what to look forward to reserve at my comic shop and stuff. And my cover for issue 1 made the cover of preview, so that was like an industry-wide, publication that that was really cool to like see my artwork on. So that was one of the highlights, probably.
Awesome. All right. Well, Andrew, thanks for coming on, and we're happy to have you for the whole show, and have you here to talk with us and talk some Transformers stuff. Sure. Is there anything like any final words you want to say to all the listeners who read Transformers comics and enjoyed your work and are looking for you to continue to come back and be on more comics?
Well, thank you. I mean, because of course it's like none of us that do this would have our jobs doing this if there weren't people out there supporting the work and buying the books and coming to see us at shows and getting commissions and all that kind of stuff. So just thanks for being out there. Thanks for supporting us. I don't know exactly what I'm doing next. I'm working on a few creator-owned things like I'm working on something with John and some other people like hiring me to do like their pitches and things. Got a few things I'm talking, a couple maybe things at like IDW. So I think I don't have anything public to announce right now, but hopefully soon as far as what I'm doing next. But I'm sure I'm not done with Transformers based on conversations I've had with IDW. I'm sure I'll be on something now and then. But
awesome.
Anyway, I hope to stay in touch with the community and all the great people I've met at the shows and everything over the years. So I wish I could announce that I'm coming to TFCon, but I was already committed to Emerald City Comic Con for that weekend. So when they announced it, a few of us like Brandon and Olivia and myself were already committed to doing Emerald City. Of course, I don't know if you've heard, but Alex is a beast, so he's doing both shows somehow the same weekend. But Yoshi is? Okay. Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, I'm already committed to Emerald City, so I'll be there that weekend. And I don't know about Toronto yet. But anyway, so I don't have any Transformer shows to announce yet.
There's always room for you in Toronto.
I hope so. I mean, I hope I can make it work. My cousin's getting married that weekend in like Germany, so I'm kind of waiting to see if I go to that wedding or not. So that's one of the reasons that I'm kind of not sure yet.
Weddings happen there. Here and there. You don't. Sure,
weddings happen every day.
Exactly. I'm sure there's a wedding every day.
Once a year. Once a year.
I'm sure your commission list at the wedding won't be near what it would be at TFCon.
No, that's true. That is true. Less castles in Toronto, though.
It's true.
Yeah. The beer is probably worse in Toronto.
We got some really good Canadian beer.
Yeah.
But it's not German beer.
German beer, though.
So anyway, but that's I guess what I had to say that came to mind there.
Awesome. All right. Well, with that, let's move on with the rest of the show and get into our comic review. All right. So this week we are doing a special Transformers one-shot This is focused on Bumblebee, but it's a more G1 Bumblebee. So it's Bumblebee Go for the Gold. And this issue just came out, I think, just a few weeks ago. But it's interesting because it's also shares kind of a universe with the Bumblebee Win If You Dare graphic novel that came out a few months ago. And it's actually kind of a prequel to that. So it's a little weird that this came out afterwards.
That was a surprise.
Yeah.
Like, I finished this one. I'm like, oh, this one should have come out first.
It definitely feels like something, I don't know the backstory to it, but it definitely feels like something that was like to coincide with the Bumblebee movie, don't you think? I mean, yeah, it was a marketing thing.
I mean, they got the same font for the Bumblebee logo.
Yeah.
Right. It's like,
yeah, so it's
like we have the prequel, but we want to have something to come out with the movie too. Maybe, I don't know. That's just kind of what I assumed.
Yeah, it's kind of just a nice, really self-contained G1 Bumblebee tale. I mean, it's set in kind of the classic 1984 G1 universe. Not quite, not exactly. There is a major difference that we'll get into when we talk about the comic. But for the most part, it's it could fit in as it could be an episode of the original cartoon. It's pretty pretty straightforward, pretty much the G1 incarnations of the characters. So let's talk about it. So this is Transformers Bumblebee Go for the Gold, written by James Asmus, art by Marcelo Ferreira, inks by Maria Keene, colors by Valentina Pinto, cover by Nicoletta Baldari, letters by Tom B. Long, editor David Marriott, and publisher Greg Goldstein. So there's only one cover, so we can't really pick our favorite cover this week, but it's an interesting kind of I guess like Art Deco-ish kind of cover. It reminds me of those. What are those covers you like, Jeremy? The real like stylized covers.
I don't know the technical term, but
it reminds me of like a retro book cover kind of a thing, like
yeah,
done on like Illustrator like a long time ago. Like it's intentionally to look like kind of old. I don't know, but it's cool.
Yeah.
I
will say it's interesting that they're using the actual VW logo on the tires there.
Have they ever done that before?
But it is an officially licensed product for VW.
No, it's on the inside cover. It says it's an official Volkswagen official licensed product, which is
it does, yeah.
Surprising. Yeah, so in the past we've heard stories that Volkswagen didn't want to be associated with Transformers because it featured violence and war, and now apparently that their tune has changed.
But it seemed like they made worked that out around the time the Masterpiece Bumblebee came out, didn't they? I mean, because like that was officially licensed, so it seems like at some point they made some kind of legal arrangement or.
Well, that's about the time they got screwed over for faking emission standards.
True.
I'm sure their funds were hurting a little.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I have a question about I don't know if you guys are, but I'm like all of these creators are new to me. I'm not sure if they worked on other books. Are you guys familiar with any of them from other comics or anything?
So Marcelo Ferreira has done other Transformers work. So he's done like some fill-in work on some of the main series. He did like half of one issue in Combiner Wars a while ago, and I think he did some of the Angry Birds Transformers issues.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I didn't read those, so that might be why. And it's been a while since the other ones came out. I'm not good with names, but they just all seem very new names to me. But okay.
Well, Transformers wouldn't be what it is today without Tom B. Long's efforts on the web.
Oh, Tom B. Long, of course. I know Tom. Yeah, Tom's great. Yeah.
Marcelo Ferreira actually he does have a page on the TF Wiki. So he did pencils for pages 5 to 10 of Drift Empire of Stone #4. He did Angry Birds Transformers, and he did How to Ride a Dinobot, which was the Transformers Robots in Disguise cartoon tie-in.
I have that.
Or not Robots in Disguise, but Age of Extinction tie-in.
It was a giveaway at Fan Expo one year.
So not extensive, but he's done some past Transformers work. But yeah, the other people I think are pretty new. At least I'm not familiar with any of them.
I don't know why I was just reminded of something I was looking through the comic, and for some reason something reminded me of not because of like the quality of this or anything like that, but I think it was like a group shot here reminding me of that. You guys remember the Transformers and Avengers comic that came out like 10 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say who, but one of the editors at IDW is like, yeah, that managed to be both the worst Marvel comic of all time and the worst IDW comic of all time.
Yeah, I actually, like a couple of months ago, at a Wizard World, I did a panel of like a retrospective of all the IDW stuff, and I reread a bunch of stuff, and that was one of the things I'm like, oh, what were they thinking?
Yeah, that's something I'd love to do, is like another shot at that. Like if they ever want to do that again, that's something I'd love to work on. It was like do another take on another stab at that.
Yeah. I wish that Justice League Transformers thing would.
Or that, yeah, that would, yeah. I think that's the whole reason that Phil got brought into Phil Jimenez to work on Dark Cybertron and all that, because they saw that he had an interest in Transformers and from his pitch.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, let's get into the story. It's the mid-1980s, and the Autobots and Decepticons have woken from their 4 million year long nap to resume their war on Earth, disguised as cars, planes, other human technology, and more. Our story begins with a meteor crashing to Earth, just like the Autobot spacecraft, the Ark, crashed those millions of years ago. Like the Ark, this meteor is very special. It is composed of raw cybertonium, a rare metal previously thought only to exist on the Transformers' home planet of Cybertron. As such, both the Autobots and Decepticons have raced to the meteor crash site to claim it for their own. Optimus Prime leads Bumblebee, Sideswipe, Wheeljack, Dinobot Grimlock, and Windblade against Starscream, Thundercracker, Skywarp, and the Constructicons as they fight for control of the crash site and the meteorite contained within. Prime orders Bumblebee to secure the prize while the other Autobots keep the Decepticons occupied, but the meteorite is too heavy for Bumblebee to lift alone. He asks Wheeljack for one of his special tools to help, but before he can respond, the Constructicon Hook delivers a mighty punch that sends Bumblebee flying. Meanwhile, Starscream is very frustrated as the Autobots are annoyingly fighting back, preventing him from getting an easy victory and recovering the meteorite. Starscream angrily orders his fellow Seekers to transform and provide air support, keeping the Autobots contained. Thundercracker and Skywarp grudgingly follow his orders while Starscream stays on the ground, pressing the attack with the Constructicons. On the other side, Prime orders Sideswipe to give Bumblebee cover so he can rejoin the Autobots. Despite the aerial assault from the Seekers, Sideswipe manages to get Bumblebee safely back to the team. Prime issues new orders. Windblade will transform into jet mode and provide some Autobot air support. Sideswipe will use his speed to effect hit-and-run attacks on the cons. And Grimlock? Smash! But what about Bumblebee? Well, Wheeljack's used science to detect that the meteorite is unstable, and the increased energy it's absorbing from the stray fire is pushing it to critical mass. Eventually it will blow, taking the whole valley with it, and the human scientists who originally discovered the meteorite are not out of the blast radius yet. So Prime orders Bumblebee to get the humans to safety ASAP. Bumblebee wants to stay and fight, but his ability to easily relate with humans makes him the best option. Bumblebee isn't happy, but he follows orders. The humans are quite surprised to see a VW bug turn into a giant talking robot, but Bumblebee quickly convinces them of his good intentions. Since their car is totaled, Bumblebee transforms and tells the three humans to get in. Back at the battle, Prime tries to reason with Starscream and tells him no one's going to win if they're all vaporized when the meteorite goes critical. Starscream naturally isn't convinced and is willing to cut his losses, literally. He shoots off a fragment of the meteorite and will be happy to claim victory with that. To make clean his escape, he orders the Constructicons to merge to form Devastator. The Autobots are forced to retreat from the might of Devastator while Starscream gets ready to fly off with his prize. For good measure, he blasts the rest of the meteorite to ensure it quickly explodes, hopefully taking the Autobots with it. The Autobots manage to get clear before the blast engulfs them. Devastator is not so lucky, but the blast only knocks him back into his component Constructicons, all still alive if somewhat banged up. Starscream orders the Constructicons to grab whatever pieces of the meteorite are left and retreat. Bumblebee finally arrives back on the scene after having gotten the humans to safety, but since the Autobots fell back to escape the meteorite blast, it's just him versus all the Decepticons. Prime orders him to retreat since Bumblebee can't face them all alone, but Bumblebee won't back down. He needs to prove himself, and he sees an opportunity. Hook tosses the last meteorite fragment to Starscream, who's about to fly off. And just at that moment, Bumblebee uses his momentum in car mode to transform and launch himself in the air, right at Starscream. He wrestles with Starscream to grab the last meteorite fragment, and Starscream is surprised and annoyed at Bumblebee's tenacity, but he's not willing to risk his own hide for the meteorite. He lets go of it, and Bumblebee, letting them both fall. As a final insult, he blasts the meteorite chunk, causing it to explode in Bumblebee's hands as they plummet to the Earth. Starscream and the other Decepticons retreat and board Astro Train since there's nothing left to fight for. The Autobots didn't get the meteorite either, but Bumblebee's heroic act was not in vain. At least the Decepticons go home empty-handed. As for Bumblebee, he did survive the blast and fall, but he'll definitely need some attention from Ratchet back at the Ark. Prime commends Bumblebee for his bravery, but mentions he'll wait till he's repaired to tell him how foolish he was. The end! And so, yeah, that's a quick little, pretty action-heavy Autobot Decepticon skirmish featuring Bumblebee. And, Bumblebee features his characteristic bravery despite his small size and lack of power. So, quintessential Bumblebee. Yoshi, I'm going to start with you. Does the presence of Windblade completely ruin this for you, or was the rest of the story okay?
I'm trying to not let it ruin me because this isn't the definitive G1 universe in my understanding of this. So I'll let that slide. But it certainly feels like Hasbro won't be happy until Windblade's in every fucking medium they make. There's a lot of good things to say about the story, the way it's written. Although, I'll tell you, I'm getting distracted by the art because it's like the artist can't focus on one style throughout the book. And I'll say the same with the colorist. It seems like they're trying everything to make something really good. And I don't think you can throw all your capabilities into one book and have a lasting impression if the style you're doing is changing throughout the whole book. And it was cool, the one or two pages where you actually can see, because there's a lot of pages where, they're transforming, but you don't get to see the transition. But there's there's like 2 pages where you can see them transforming, and that's really cool. I really do enjoy that. And Tom B. Long is a letter god.
Can I just say, I think, not to cut in, but Windblade's such an interesting character because when she first came out, I remember she was so, I guess it'd say controversial. I remember a lot of noise online about people complaining about her being this stereotypical, Japanese geisha character, and a lot of people just hated her at first. But it almost feels like by sheer force of will, Hasbro's just put her, like you said, into every form of media. Just you guys are gonna like her whether you want to or not, and it's it just feels like okay, she's here, she's everywhere, deal with it, like her. And Drift was kind of the same way years and years ago when he first came out. He got a lot of negative pushback at first. People hated him, but over time, they just put him into storybooks and this and that, and now he's become and maybe it has more to do with his involvement more than meets the eye, but at some point he just became a popular fan favorite character. It's kind of funny the way that works.
Well, I think we all like Windblade when Margaret Scott was writing her. Mm. But it's really hard to find something to like about her since then. At least for me. I mean, this is me talking. I'm having a perfect example is the nostalgia bullshit grab IDW did with the Star Trek versus Transformers. It makes no sense to throw Windblade in there at all. It pulls me out of the book. It doesn't fit there. But in their
endless attempts to rewrite an origin story, I can accept them putting in there because it's a different universe, and I'm happy with that. But it seems like Mary Grade really nailed her, and nobody's been able to do it since.
Well, I mean, I would say at least I enjoyed Windblade in the new the Cyberverse cartoon. I think she's used well there. I think I think at least it's weird. It's weird for me to see her inserted into these nostalgia heavy books. Like these are supposed to be kind of G1-esque books, and like this and Star Trek versus Transformers. It's just it's a little bit jarring to see Windblade just kind of put in the background with all the other season 1 G1 bots. But I think in like all the new stuff, she's been at least the stuff where she's with the new Cyberverse stuff. Although I guess the other place where she's had a heavy prominence is in that Power of the Primes trilogy, or the Prime Wars trilogy stuff, which I mean, Windblade was not the worst part of those series. But,
it's funny. I actually did the design for her. Well, it's very similar to the comics, but like the actual like turnarounds and stuff for that series. And it was funny because I feel like I've never really drawn her much in the comics, but I feel like she's one of the characters I've drawn the most because of different things I've worked on as far as like that, doing concept art and things like that. I remember I did some stuff for like one of the Transformers movies. When Hasbro first pitches the things they wanted Michael Bay to use and different ideas and different concepts and storyboards and stuff, I did some of that stuff. And like they had Windblade in one of the movies, like right after like she got introduced in the comics and stuff. I was like, wow, they're really trying to push her, aren't they? They're really trying to get her into everything.
That would have like been a way to just kind of kill her right off the bat.
True.
Andrew, you work in the industry. Do these scripts get written and then Hasbro mandates like you need to put this character in it?
It's weird because like usually they're pretty hands off. They let IDW do what they want, but there are situations where they want you to introduce certain characters because they're going to be toys, and like Dark Cybertron had a lot of that. So I don't know. I guess it just depends on like what the marketing team at Hasbro is currently feeling like, because sometimes they really kind of push that. Sometimes they just let you do what you want.
I mean, the Hasbro does have to approve all this stuff, so they could have been like, hey, wait, this is a G1 story. Where's G1 Windblade?
It could have been that kind of thing where Hasbro saw the pitch and they were like, well, we like it, but could you put in Windblade or this or that?
I mean, she's got one panel where she talks in this book. I can see her being a character thrown in at the last minute since she's got a sentence.
Yeah, she's definitely a background character.
If I remember right, she had more to say and do in the other book.
I mean, I think it was about the same because only like a couple of pages. Because that book is even more heavily focused on Bumblebee by himself. It's just like a couple pages at the beginning and then like maybe one at the end.
The one thing I noticed when I was thinking about some of this when I read it was that there is an element of her like dealing with the Seekers, like some airborne combat. So she's kind of like somebody that can take them on in the sky. But I don't know. They could have always just done what was it, Jet Jitsu from the G1 cartoons with Sideswipe and Sunstreaker. But I don't know. Maybe that's why she was in there to be a foil for the Seekers. I don't know.
I mean, we do have other flying Autobots too. I mean, that's there's a even
well, this is mostly season 1 characters,
right. And she was a well-known season 1 character, so
yeah, she was. She was like right off screen in almost everything.
She was that miscolored Seeker that you always thought was a mistake.
All right. So, Andrew, did you have any additional thoughts on the story?
I thought it was a fun little, like you said, it was very much like a G1 cartoon episode, wasn't it? Like I don't know, never released cartoon episode or something, but something about it kind of reminded me a bit of, I think with like when he's interacting with the humans and driving around and like through the mountains and stuff. For some reason, it reminds me of one of those early Marvel issues with Ratchet when he encounters some humans in the forest. I think when he was out looking for the Dinobots, or like it was after Shockwave had taken over the Ark and all that kind of stuff. But something about it kind of reminded me of I don't know if it's like the high contrast kind of scratchy art or the scenery or what, but like for some reason it kind of reminded me of that. That was something that I thought was interesting. Just kind of took me back a little bit.
All right, Daryl, this was pretty much all action. So did you enjoy this?
Yeah. I thought it was a fun little story. It definitely was a quick read. It wasn't too heavy on much background for anybody. Everyone was, you kind of expected everyone to be known already. And that's true. I mean, all these characters are very well known. The art was decent. I didn't mind the art too much, except one glaring bit was the use of the insignia stamp. I hate that. I hate it so much.
I was going to comment on that too.
It's not ever in the same place on anybody. Andrew, you're our artist on the show tonight. It's you don't use a stamp, do you?
Well, now that you're pointing that out, I can't unsee it. Like I have to be honest and say that like I'm looking at 2 pages here, and the symbol on Bumblebee's chest is like just does not follow the rules of perspective as far as like where his chest is at all. So I don't know. I mean, maybe that was done later on in production. I don't know who's responsible for that, but like that could be a tricky thing to get to look right. But I do remember when we did RID, I did use the stamp a lot because Josh Perez, he preferred to color it that way. He preferred to add it himself later. So
okay.
He thought it was easier to do it that way. So a lot of times I didn't draw the insignias and just let him handle it. So, but I think.
So you would put the stamp in here.
No, I wouldn't even draw it. I don't think. Or if I did,
okay.
he'd just erase it and use the ones that Hasbro provided. But
gotcha.
Yeah, I mean
it just. If you're going to use it, I understand, like, if anybody's tried to draw the Autobot logo, it's not easy, right? And kudos to Alex Milne for figuring out a shorthand way of doing both of them. It's not an easy symbol to do. But to use the stamp and to not have any kind of consistency, like I'm looking at a panel here with Prime shooting Starscream in the arm here, and Wheeljack's insignia. It doesn't even stay in the box. Like it's a mess. And you mentioned Bumblebees, and it's all over the place. Like it's never in the same place twice. It's a mess. So
well, there's one shot here where he when he first meets the humans, and he transforms and runs towards them, and like the symbols kind of almost like overlapping the window a little bit, and
yeah,
it is a little. I don't know. I mean, I don't know who was responsible for it or what, but that can be a tricky thing to do. I don't know. I don't want to be too harsh or anything, but it is a little inconsistent.
Yeah, I think with me it's more. I'm okay with the stamp, but like you said, it's the perspective, and it's like the angle of the body is one way, and the stamp is angled another way.
Yeah, I'm just. Other than that, I actually really liked the art. I dug it. It's good. Prime looks really G1, and the Bumblebee's face is really emoting a lot. It's kind of messed up a little bit in a couple panels, but it's decent. It works. Looks like he's doing a lot of yelling, but he's in a battle, so I guess it checks out. But I like I like the style of the book. It's pretty good, and the story flowed. It was a decent story. It generally with most G1 episodes, it started off with like some kind of goofy little premise, and at some point they would fight, and then it would end with some kind of goofy joke. But it was just the fight. This was just the fight from the episode, and I don't mind that. But yeah, no, it was a good story.
Since Windblade has no insignia on her throughout this entire book, is it safe to say she's just a figment of their imagination?
Maybe this is a figment of her imagination.
The whole book is a figment of your imagination.
That would be the Machinima series.
Maybe this is Windblade's fan fiction, writing herself into the original G1 cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll end with Jeremy. What did you think?
I gotta mirror what a bunch of y'all have said. It was a fun short story. The art, I agree with Yoshi in part where it is multiple styles, but I do see something here. Like there's enough panels in here where I'm like, if if this guy picked this style and, kept doing it, it would be up there with, something I would want to see on a regular book. Like there's a page I'm looking here right now with like, you have Prime and Sideswipe and, Wheeljack, and they're looking really good. I like the shading style that he used. And then there's some other ones where just like the screaming faces, I don't know. It just seems off or odd to me, but the humans look good. The vehicles look good. So there is something here. And, I would like to see more of this artist, refine his style, because I know Transformers aren't the easiest things to draw, but it was a good short story. And like I said, before we started, it was kind of, you get to the end and you're like, wait, this is a prequel for the thing that came out a couple months ago that we already read. That's kind of odd. And it doesn't actually, on the comic page, it doesn't say anything. It's like on the next page, you get kind of a preview of the other book, and you're like, find out what happens next. Check this out. And I'm like, that's something that probably should have been on that last page. But, all in all, I thought it was an enjoyable book.
Yeah, I mean, they even give you a 5-page preview of the Win If You Dare. Yeah. All right. Yeah. I mean, so I think I agree with what everyone said. Yeah. Jeremy, like you, I think some of the facial expressions on Bumblebee were a little off-putting for me, but for the most part, I enjoyed the art. Other than that little nitpick. But yeah, it's a fun, short little story. Just a quick little Bumblebee spotlight. All right, well, that is Bumblebee Go for the Gold. And so let's move on to some Transformers media news.
All right, in media news this week, if you have been waiting until just this moment to watch the Prime Wars series from Machinima, you're out of luck. Machinima has closed down their YouTube channels, so I don't know what's going on there, but they're restructuring. Maybe, I don't know.
They were bought by another company, and that company is like changing the way that they're doing their.
All right. Yeah. Well, maybe the stuff will come up again another time under another name, or another channel. It wasn't great, but it was something. If you hadn't seen it yet, then look for it. If you are still looking, the Combiner Wars series, the original, is still on the Hasbro site, and it's not region locked, which is crazy. I'm looking at it right now, so not everything on the Hasbro YouTube channel is region locked, which begs the question, why isn't everything like that? But who knows? So yeah, check that out if you're still looking. But be warned, it's not great.
Don't check it out.
There was an interesting video put up by TFCon from TFCon Chicago. It was an interview with Rick Alvarez, who discussed some unused plot concepts for Transformers Age of Extinction. So there's a video of it here, and he goes through some of what they decided they were going to do. And I think we discussed some of this before, because it was something about the bringing Transformers and G.I. Joe together into one movie, and this is kind of what this is going to discuss. So, but take a look at the video; it's pretty cool. Rick Alvarez did a lot of consulting for the movies. Also, we've got some interesting stuff from the Bumblebee movie. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Andrew, you spent some time in Japan. How do you pronounce this guy's name? Let's see here. Charles, throw him a link. See what he...
Boy, I'm not sure. Ryohei, I'd guess like Ryohei Kimura or something like that.
All right, we'll go with that. Ryohei Kimura is reprising his role as Bumblebee for the Japanese dub. Now, all you G1 Japanese fans, don't get excited. He wasn't the voice of G1 Bumblebee, but the voice of their car robots, Bumblebee. So But he's still a Bumblebee from a previous incarnation.
Wait, car robots or the new robots in disguise? Because car robots didn't have Bumblebee.
Oh, that's right. Never mind. I thought they put robots in disguise in here instead of car robots.
They did.
It does say robots in disguise. So it's robots in disguise, Bumblebee. That's what I thought when I read this the first time.
So it's Will Friedle. It's the Japanese Will Friedle.
That's right. When I read the story earlier, I thought it because they wrote robots in disguise, they meant car robots. And well, my bad. Anyway, it's robots in disguise, 2015, the Japanese dub Bumblebee. That's not as exciting.
I forgot the movie hasn't even come out in Japan yet.
It hasn't. No. We've got a logo and concept info. Join the buzz. It's not very exciting. It's just a B. Concept art for round 2. This is talking about some of the characters that appeared in Bumblebee and the concept art behind them. And that's kind of cool. Looking at Dropkick and a warrior, just a Cybertronian warrior that I don't know actually appeared in the movie. Might have been a background character that never really took shape. Bunch of different head designs, actually, it looks like.
Looks like a Cylon.
Kinda, yeah.
Head design.
It's kind of cool. And then obviously we've got a picture of Bumblebee here with his Jeep design, but in robot mode. And we've got a story about Bumblebee passing the $400 million worldwide mark. And it's a story about what's coming next. And what's coming next is Bumblebee 2 in the works? ? So we can expect that, likely. But also we've heard stuff about maybe a Optimus Prime movie, possibly a Beast Wars movie. There's a lot of stuff in the air right now. A Cybertron, CGI movie, which would be fucking awesome. Let's do that. So who knows? Take this with a grain of salt right now. But yeah, it's stuff. All these kind of stories are coming out of the mouth of the producer Lorenzo Di Bonaventura. So yeah, he's just spouting off right now. So until something actually starts getting made, then we really don't have much to talk about. And that's it for media news.
Hey, while we're on this subject a little bit, I meant to mention this earlier, but I was completely, I don't know about you guys, but when they did the Cybertron scenes on Bumblebee, I was completely surprised by some of the characters that you saw there that I was not expecting to see, and just to see them look so faithful to G1, it was really kind of a nice fan moment there. I don't know if you guys were as surprised as I was, but
oh yeah.
I mean, I was never expecting to see Brawn and RC.
Yeah, RC really surprised me, and Brawn. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I actually saw the Spanish overdub version, so I don't know. Were any of those voiced by the original actors or anything from the original series, or?
No, Shockwave and Soundwave were both done by John Bailey, and they were spot on G1 sounding.
Yeah, I knew he did the voices for those, and Peter Cullen did Optimus, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, I haven't heard what any of those sound like, but I did know that those guys did the voices. But as far as RC and Brawn and Wheeljack, I didn't know what they sounded like, or if they had lines. I don't remember.
Can't remember. I think RC might have.
They all had lines, yeah.
Oh, I did hear that actually. RC, I think, was voiced by the same person who voiced her in, was it Revenge of the Fallen? The other live action. RC.
Yeah, it was a. I don't know her name, but it sounded pretty good. Even Wheeljack had a voice, had a line too. Cliffjumper had some lines.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, Cliffjumper had probably the most lines out of all that group.
It wasn't The Rock, was it?
No.
Because he did him in Transformers Prime, I think, right? Wasn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
For one episode.
But it would jack up the budget for this movie significantly.
Well, they had the budget for him for one episode of a cartoon series. So.
Yeah.
That was before he was the super movie star, though.
Was it? I don't know. I felt like that was after some of his movies, but I don't know.
Well, it was 2012, 2011. I mean, no.
Yeah, but I mean, they already had John Cena in this movie. It might have just caused.
There would have been a Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
Anyway, not to divert the conversation there, but it was something that was kind of fun to mention.
We're here to have a discussion, so that's what we're here to do. As Daryl says, we're here to talk Transformers.
All right, happy to indulge that.
Yeah, we did.
All right, well, that's it for media news, and that'll do it for this episode of Transmissions. Again, I want to thank our special guest, Andrew Griffith, for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's nice to be back for a visit here at the Transmissions Oil House, or whatever you call it.
You're always welcome.
Thanks.
And if you're not familiar with Andrew's work, check out all the Transformers comics he's worked on in the past 10 years, particularly Transformers Robots in Disguise and Just Transformers after it was retitled a little bit later. Also, some of the movie tie-in comics that he did. Just look up his page on the TF Wiki, and you'll find links to everything.
Charles, there's a much easier way. If they're not familiar with Andrew's work, they can apologize directly by joining our Patreon.
Okay, that is an option.
Yeah, that's right.
Ignorance doesn't come for free.
Yeah.
And Andrew, I know you said you didn't have any current stuff to plug, but if you'd like to, put out your social media stuff, we'll make sure everyone has access to it if they want to get in contact with you.
Yeah, sure. Like on Twitter and Instagram and stuff, I usually go by Glove Studios, like glove like on a hand. Long story from way back when I was doing freelance design stuff, but yeah, that's usually the handle I use is Glove Studios. Or if you just Google Andrew Griffith Transformers, you'll usually come up with some stuff. So,
all right, everyone, thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Later.
bye, everybody.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to this episode of Transmissions. But just because this episode is over doesn't mean the Transformers fun has to stop. Join us and other Transformers fans on our Discord chat server by visiting transmissionspodcast.com/Discord. If you would like to learn more about how you could support the Transmissions Podcast, just visit transmissionspodcast.com/support. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you again next week.
Thanks for throwing to me, Charles. It was a little premature. Back to you.
So you want to skip this entirely?
Don't you? I mean, unless you want to hear me struggle.
Okay, then let's. I will rewind. Edit this out, Mike. Yoshi, you almost crashed the ship.
It's an important question because nobody pronounces it the same.
Well, it's like the markers that everybody uses. When I was in Japan, I asked two different people that work for the company that makes them, and some people tell me it's pronounced Copic, some people tell me it's pronounced Copic. So I'm still not sure.